Niggas acting tough in the hood, till the wolves come. Bitches let it drink in the club, till the wolves come. Surrounded by the sheep in the street, till the wolves come. Everyone strip on the floor, we the wolves done.
Who could fuck with Dinero? I got a Snyder extender clip, so who wanna play hero? Go bad shit like Ozzy, I was born in the darkness. Oh, you the wolf, so we pull up and you're harmless. So pray to Allah, the Don Dada, the top shotter, the top spot, final boss you cross, that's when your ride stop. Basquiat with that white chalk, trigger finger streaks, might leave your brains on the sidewalk.
Niggas acting tough in the hood, till the wolves come. Bitches let it drink in the club, till the wolves come. Surrounded by the sheep in the street, till the wolves come. Everyone strip on the floor, we the wolves done. Heard them got them niggas, they be moving in the packs. Think the shit is sweet, they be plotting in the back. Summertime, better be careful where you at. No matter addy, nigga, we gon' get you where you lack. Dipping, creeping through the night is precise. Catch a nigga slipping for his ice, worth your life. Answers yes, well, did nigga pay your price? Right or wrong, when you see the moon, it's on sight.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Wrestling Delorean Podcast. This is episode 281. I am your host, Mike Dinero, and today we have a super stacked show. This is the show here on the Bloodline Network and on the Circle of Debate, where we go back in time 5 days a week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, motherfucking Friday. And this is going to be our Raw Rewind for the week. So before we get into all of that, before we get into all of everything that happened on this episode of Monday Night Raw, we got to give a big shout out to not only our sponsors at manscaped.com. Go to manscaped.com for all your male grooming needs, 20% off site-wide, weed whacker, lawnmower, ball deodorant, boxers, you know the drill, 20% off using the promo code DeLorean, all caps, DELOREAN, all cap but no cap. You don't want to miss out on the Manscaped promo. Get your Manscaped needs right now using the promo code DeLorean. Also, got to give a big shout out to my Wrestling Delorean passengers. Thank you so much for riding with the Wrestling Delorean Podcast. Thank you so much for everybody who is riding with the Circle of Debate. And thank you for everybody who is riding with the Bloodline Entertainment Network. This is week 2. We had a historic week 1. We had upwards of almost 15 episodes fucking on the Bloodline Network last week. It was amazing. It was beautiful. And we're just going to keep the train rolling. We're going to keep on pushing. We're going to keep it going. We're going to keep the momentum strong. And we're going to continue to take over the fucking podcast world. So acknowledge the Bloodline Network by hitting that subscribe button right now on the Bloodline Entertainment Network YouTube channel and hitting that subscribe button on the Circle of Debate. Make sure you follow on Instagram at Wrestling Delorean Pod, Circle of Debate, and the Bloodline Entertainment Network. Make sure you follow on Twitter at W_Delorean Pod, at Circle of Debate, and at the Bloodline Entertainment Network. Without all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to go back in time. This is Monday. That means only one thing. We're going to go back in time to another episode of Monday Night Raw. And on this episode of Monday Night Raw, we're talking about the April 23rd, 2001 episode of Monday Night Raw, the go-home show before Backlash 2001, and probably the biggest 8-man tag main event in Monday Night Raw history. So strap in your seatbelt. We're about to go back in time. Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot wait to talk about this Raw. This was a Raw that I remember fondly as a child, and I cannot wait to talk about it because that main event is one of my favorite Raw main events of all time. All time. We're going to get to why it's happening. We're going to get to how it was made, but let's just talk about it right now. The main event of this Monday Night Raw is the two-man power trip, Stone Cold Steve Austin and Triple H teaming up with Edge and Christian, former tag team champions, to go against the new tag team champions, Undertaker and Kane, the Brothers of Destruction, and they will be teaming up against the Hardy Boys, Jeff and Matt Hardy. What a fucking super stacked main event that is. Let's see how it was made. Let's see how it happened. This Monday Night Raw starts out with clips from SmackDown from the prior Thursday, where the Brothers of Destruction get attacked by the two-man power trip on SmackDown with chairs. On the same episode, though, the Brothers of Destruction have a tag team title match against Edge and Christian. And Vince McMahon makes the match. By the way, Edge and Christian lose that match to the Brothers of Destruction. The Brothers of Destruction are your new tag team champions. Later on in the night of that episode of SmackDown, Vince McMahon makes a match for Backlash where it will be Triple H and Stone Cold Steve Austin putting up their IC and World Heavyweight Championships against the Brothers of Destruction, putting up their tag team championships. The biggest main event in pay-per-view, he calls it. You'll have not only the tag titles on the line, not only the Intercontinental title on the line, but the WWF World Heavyweight Championship all on the line in one matchup. Backlash this Sunday, which, by the way, next Monday here on the Wrestling Delorean Podcast, we will not be talking about Monday Night Raw. We will indeed be talking about Backlash 2001, since that is the next pay-per-view. For all the new people that are new to the bloodline, new to the Wrestling Delorean Podcast, how we do things is not only do we build up and talk about the week-to-week Monday Night Raws, SmackDowns, ECWs, TNAs, whatever it is, but we also talk about the pay-per-views that they're building up towards. So next week, Backlash 2001, Undertaker, Kane versus Triple H and Stone Cold. We will be talking about it here on the Wrestling Delorean Network on the Circle Debate and the Bloodline. Hit that subscribe button. Monday Night Raw starts off with the iconic Raw intro, the one that you just saw here on the DeLorean. And the Brothers of Destruction come out. They're not wasting no time. Undertaker grabs the mic. He says, they've been saying it is a decade of destruction for the Brothers of Destruction. It is a decade of mayhem. It is a decade of carnage. But one thing it is not is a decade of humor. Now I'm looking at the TV like, what the fuck is Undertaker talking about? He says, me and my brother Kane don't have the best sense of humor. We don't like to laugh too much. But there is something that made us laugh. There is something that we want to go back and show everybody that happened on SmackDown this past Thursday. Something that just made us laugh. So they go back to the Tron and they show a clip from SmackDown where Triple H and Stone Cold is saying in the middle of the ring that they are the most dominant two wrestlers in WWF history. They cut back to Raw and Undertaker saying, I don't know about you, but Stone Cold Steve Austin and Triple H being the most dominant two wrestlers in WWE history is pretty fucking funny, because the real most dominant two wrestlers in WWF history is Undertaker and Kane, the Brothers of Destruction. So with that being said, they don't want to wait till Backlash. They'll have the match at Backlash for the titles, but they're not in this for a championship gold. They're in this to beat some ass. So how about we have the match at Backlash for the gold, but let's have a match tonight just to fight. Out comes Edge and Christian. Edge and Christian say that they are the Brothers of Destruction, and yes, they are very dominant, but they're only a one-time tag team champions, where Edge and Christian, on the contrary, are 7-time tag team champions. So when it comes to tag team wrestling, Edge and Christian is more dominant than the Brothers of Destruction. Christian says that they want to fight. They said, we're not scared of the Brothers of Destruction. So Undertaker says, why don't you bring your two puny asses to the ring, and we will show you why it is called a decade of destruction. That word destruction was used at least 100 times in this promo. But Christian and Edge, they oblige and they head to the ring, not showing any fear, which was very interesting because these are two guys who showed fear to the hardcore Holly and Crash Hollies of the world, but not to Undertaker and Kane. And the reason why is because it was all a ruse. Because as Edge and Christian enter the ring and Undertaker and Kane start to put the boots to their ass, Stone Cold Steve Austin and Triple H attack from behind and get the better of the Brothers of Destruction. Not only do they beat up the Brothers of Destruction, they annihilate the Brothers of Destruction with steel chairs. Vicious steel chair shots from both Triple H and Stone Cold Steve Austin onto Kane and The Undertaker, absolutely taking them out. We then see backstage Vince McMahon and Stephanie laughing at the carnage that Stone Cold and Triple H has just laid on the Brothers of Destruction. And then we see on their TV screen in their locker room, Mick Foley arriving at the WWF New York. Stephanie says, leave it to Foley to go anywhere where there's free food. But Vince McMahon thinks that there is more to that. He thinks that Mick Foley is up to no good, and he wants to get to the bottom of it tonight. First matchup of the night for the WWF Hardcore Championship, we have Rhino versus Spike, a very ECW-esque matchup. I remember going to an ECW show in its dying days in 2000. It was a pay-per-view called The Massacre on 34th Street, where in the Hammerstein Ballroom, we had Rhino versus Spike. So cool to see a year later they were fighting in the WWF, two guys who truly deserve it. But a little backstory here. Rhino is now your hardcore champion. Last week, we talked about the hardcore champion being Kane, but on the SmackDown before this Monday Night Raw, Triple H screwed Kane, and Kane lost the title to Rhino when Triple H hit him with a chair and a pedigree on SmackDown. Rhino picking up the victory on Kane. He is now defending that title against Spike Dudley on Raw here. The Dudley Boys are on commentary. During the matchup, the X Factor come out. X Factor and the Dudley Boys fight on the outside while Rhino gores Spike Dudley in half for the victory. 1, 2, 3. Next matchup, we have KANE, the team of Taka Michinoku and Funaki. They go against the Right to Censor. KANE gets a huge pop in this Denver audience when they come out with John Elway jerseys playing to the crowd. Shout out to John Elway. Shout out to Classic Football. Yep. If you want football news, if you want football podcasts, look no further than the Bloodline Entertainment Network. Hit that subscribe button. Shout out to the Tim King Show. Shout out to Roto Sports. Shout out to the Debate Center. A lot of other things besides pro wrestling coming to the Bloodline Entertainment Network, including football, baseball, basketball, movies, entertainment, music, everything, anime. Hit that subscribe button. Back to the show. The KANE beats Right to Censor. Pretty quick matchup. Taka Michinoku gets the victory on the Good Father, I should say. We go backstage. Vince McMahon sees Mick Foley ordering food at WWF New York. Vince books a matchup tonight for his son Shane at Backlash because the Big Show barges into his dressing room and says that if Vince McMahon is being serious about him on SmackDown being the biggest disappointment in WWF, because that's what Vince said on SmackDown, then he's going to show why he is the most dangerous wrestler in that locker room. Vince says, show me on Sunday when you go against my son Shane in a last man standing matchup. Then Big Show says, I have it on good authority that Shane McMahon and Test were laughing backstage at your expense. So tonight, let me show you a little bit of what I'm going to do to Shane on Sunday by putting me in a match with Test tonight. Backstage, we see Kurt Angle and William Regal. They're strategizing for their tag team matchup tonight because they have a very interesting tag team matchup. It is a tag team submission matchup where you can only win by tapping out your opponent. They'll be going against the team of Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit. We also see Michael Cole standing outside of the trainer's room saying that Undertaker and Kane are not cleared to wrestle here tonight. Stone Cold Steve Austin and Triple H walk by Michael Cole and say, oh, they're not cleared? We'll see about that. Out to the ring, Stone Cold Steve Austin and Triple H come out. Triple H says that Undertaker and Kane came out here and was talking shit about Stone Cold and Triple H, and they got dealt with. Just like any other team who steps up will get dealt with. Just like any other individual who steps up will get dealt with when you talk about Triple H and Stone Cold, because Triple H and Stone Cold are the two most dominant men in the industry today, yesterday, and in the future. It will happen to anyone who steps up, he says. Stone Cold grabs the mic and says that he is not waiting till Backlash. Undertaker and Kane, what are you, a bunch of cowards? Why don't you come out here tonight and fight us, you cowards? The Hardy Boys end up coming out, and they said that, yes, you must have beat our ass, but we are not going to back down. We are not going to ever say die. We're going to keep coming at you. So for the third week in a row, the Hardy Boys wants a piece of the two-man Power Trip's ass. The Hardy Boys come running down to the ring. Stone Cold Steve Austin and Triple H start brawling with the Hardy Boys. Edge and Christian come out and they take out the Hardy Boys. Now it's a 4-on-2 assault when Kane and the Undertaker comes out and they take out all 4 men. And then on the Tron, we see Mick Foley in WWF New York. He says that Linda McMahon gave him a contract that says he's allowed to make one last Raw main event, being that he is no longer commissioner of the WWF. He's allowed to make one last main event, and he's going to choose that tonight because tonight he wants a big 8-man tag. He wants Edge and Christian to team up with Triple H and Stone Cold Steve Austin to go up against Undertaker, Kane, and the Hardy Boys. Woo! What a mammoth main event that is. I cannot wait for that matchup. But first, we're going to get to another tag match because the next matchup on the show, it is the tag team submission matchup. Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho versus William Regal and Kurt Angle. This was a really fun matchup. Did not last long. Good chemistry between all 4 men like we've been seeing week in and week out here on Raw. In the end, though, Chris Benoit taps out William Regal with the crippler crossface. It is announced that Backlash, it will be William Regal versus Chris Jericho. And then also, it will be Kurt Angle versus Chris Benoit in a 30-minute Ultimate Submission matchup. Really looking forward to that. On the show, we also get Big Show versus Test. This was a fun matchup that Test wins, actually, when Shane McMahon comes out and nails Big Show with a chair behind the referee's back. Vince McMahon is backstage. He's pissed off. He's looking for Shane McMahon. He runs into Trish Stratus. He says that Trish Stratus is only good for 2 things: taking off her clothes and stepping in the ring. So he says tonight we're going to see both of those things because Trish Stratus will go one-on-one tonight against the Right to Censor's Ivory. And if Ivory wins, then Trish Stratus will take off all her clothes and replace them with the white button down, the black slacks, because she will be forced to join the Right to Censor. Next up, we get a very random matchup. It is Raven, Steve Blackman, and the Grandmaster Sexay versus the Radicals. Now, the last couple weeks, we've been seeing Raven team up with 2 random people to go against the Radicals. Last week, it was Test and Billy Gunn. This week is Grandmaster Sexay and Steve Blackman. The Radicals win the matchup. Eddie Guerrero pins Raven. And I don't know how this makes sense, but Eddie Guerrero pins Raven, and it is announced that it's going to be Eddie Guerrero defending his European Championship against Raven at Backlash. So if Raven takes the pinfall, why does Raven get a title shot? Especially against the guy who just pinned him. Doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, Trish Stratus versus Ivory. Trish Stratus wins the matchup. It was pretty quick. Let's talk about this main event. First of all, the crowd goes absolutely ape shit for every single one of these wrestlers. The crowd is just eating this up. They want every single one of these wrestlers. They even cheer for the heels. Stone Cold gets a mammoth pop. Fucking Triple H gets a massive pop. Undertaker, Kane, huge pops. The Hardy Boys, Edge and Christian, everybody. The crowd here in Denver, Colorado, they're just waiting to see the action. They are excited for every one of these 8 men, and this matchup truly delivered. It was absolute chaos. There was a lot of fighting in between the ropes, outside the ring, in the crowd. They brawled all over. This basically was a tornado 8-man tag because this was just all over. I love this shit. Undertaker went on a true mayhem here. He took out a bunch of people. Everybody shined. All 8 men had spots. All 8 men had opportunities to really show who they are. You not only had the top echelon here in the ring with Undertaker, Kane, Stone Cold, and Triple H, but you saw glimpses of the future of greatness for Christian, for Hardy, Matt Hardy, for Jeff Hardy, for Edge. Like, you could tell that these guys were getting groomed for main event spots because they're here hanging with guys like Stone Cold, Triple H, Undertaker, and Kane. This was a great matchup, but in the end, Undertaker does a big dive on everyone on the outside, but then Triple H throws Matt Hardy in the ring. He hits the pedigree. 1, 2, 3. The 2-man power trip and Edge and Christian are going to not only win the matchup, but going to Backlash with all the momentum in the world. It is going to be, like I said, the 2-man power trip, Stone Cold Steve Austin and Triple H against Undertaker and Kane at Backlash, and all the gold is going to be on the line. For the 2-man power trip, they have to sacrifice the World Championship and the IC Championship, and for the Brothers of Destruction, they have to sacrifice the tag team titles. So I am so hyped. Like I said, this upcoming Monday, we'll be talking all about Backlash here on the Wrestling Delorean podcast. But this was a great episode of Raw. I strongly recommend it. I'm going to give it a strong 4 out of 5 stars. It was fun as fuck. I'm telling you, this time period was so fun. I never even thought about how great this time period was until I came back and started watching it again. I'm going to tell you this right now. This is the time period that gets a lot of shit because the upcoming invasion angle, but go back and watch this pre-invasion wrestling because this is a great, great time for the WWF. All cylinders. They're firing on all cylinders. This shit is mad fun to watch. And I strongly recommend you go back and watch these shows with me on a weekly basis because these shows are really good. They're fun. And then you can know what I'm talking about when I get on here with the Wrestling Delorean podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be back here tomorrow with a new episode of the Wrestling Delorean podcast, episode 282. We'll be talking all about TNA Bound for Glory 2006 from Detroit, Michigan. Can't wait to talk about it. Huge main event. Jeff Jarrett versus Sting, career versus title, with the special guest enforcer being Kurt Angle. I cannot wait to talk about it. I cannot wait to see you there. Once again, hit that subscribe button on the Bloodline Entertainment Network. Hit that subscribe button on the Circle Debate, and I will catch you tomorrow. Stay strong, stay safe, stay positive. One love.